Well, it's a good evening here in Queensland, Australia, and it's a good morning to my co-host in the UK, Andrena Forrest, and our guest we've had before. Had fantastic insight, and I'm welcoming Andrena to introduce our guest. Back to you then, Andrena.
Hi, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Dreaming the New Dream. And today is Thursday, the 6th of April, 2023, would you believe? And it's our great pleasure to have Clive De Carle back on again. This is the third time. And I love Clive's work and what he's about and what he shares. And no beating the truth here. You know, what you see is what you get. So I've got lots of questions. So let's start. Welcome, Clive, and it's lovely to see you again.
Thanks, Andrena, and nice to see you as well, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
And I'm currently in Trowbridge. Apparently, you're about 6 miles down the road.
Yeah, I'm near Marlborough.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm not sure where to start because I've got some questions, but I would like you to bring us up to speed with what we really need to know now, health-wise, with all what's going on, with all that's coming in from here, there, and everywhere. And I know I saw a video that you put up about the water, bathing in the bath water, and I thought, oh my God, you know, I don't think any of us had thought about being in the bath water and what comes in that water. So I didn't get to see the end of it. So Carol was saying, you know, if you put a piece of potato in the water, would it absorb that fluoride or whatever's in there, all the nasties? So should we start there?
Okay, so I put up this video. It's only about 3 minutes long, a couple of weeks back. And essentially, I got 3 glasses, filled them up with tap water, and then got some chlorine indicator drops, which people buy to test their pool or whatever, see whether there's got enough chlorine. So I put some drops in, and within a few seconds, the water went green, which shows there's chlorine in the water. Then I put my fingers in the next glass, stirred them around for about 3 seconds, pulled them out, put the chlorine indicator drops in, and it didn't go green. Now, I can only extrapolate from that one or two things happened. Either somehow my fingers neutralized the chlorine, but I don't think that was the case.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, what happened was the chlorine got absorbed into my fingers just in 3 seconds. So the third glass, as you mentioned, I got a little slice of potato, raw potato, put it in, stirred it around for about 3 seconds, and again, the chlorine indicator drops indicated that there wasn't any chlorine left in the glass. So again, I can only assume that either the chlorine neutralized it or it got absorbed into the potato. So it's pretty shocking. So if you do have a bath or a shower, how much chlorine is going into you? Maybe the whole lot. And remember that chlorine is a poison gas. You know, yes, you can have it dissolved in water, but it is essentially a gas. It'll go right in. And, you know, our skin is a two-way membrane. Anything you put on your skin is going to go in. And this is a warning to people not only washing or drinking or cooking in the stuff, but it's also the fluoride. Now, if anybody is still using fluoride toothpaste, they want to think again rapidly, because fluoride is a neurotoxin. And in America, I believe on toothpaste tubes, it used to say if you swallow more than a pea-sized amount, you should report to poison control because the fluoride in the toothpaste is that dangerous. So, you know, fluoride used to be used as rat poison, for example.
Mm.
So then there is bromine. Now, if you've bought a new piece of furniture recently, they spray those with fire retardants, which are usually chemicals of bromine, salts of bromine. And bromine is another halogen on the same class. Your chlorine, iodine, fluoride, and bromine are all halogens. They're all the same part of the halogen group. And all of them displace iodine. So iodine is what we have in our thyroid, in women, in the breasts. And if you are exposed to chlorine or fluoride or bromine, that depletes your iodine levels, which basically damages your thyroid and may make people vulnerable to breast cancer. And so how can you deal with this? Well, the vitamin C is the answer, basically. If you add vitamin C to your bath water, for example, or you get a vitamin C shower head, which are available on my site, it instantly neutralizes the chlorine. It doesn't neutralize the fluoride if you have that in the water. And you either need to filter that out in some way, or if it's available in your country, get some real borax, genuine borax, and try to get out the sun.
Yeah, I've been playing that game. Yeah, I was going to ask you about borax because I bought a couple of boxes somewhere. I've been, when I have a bath, I put it in a bath. So yeah, I was going to ask you about, and I don't think that's quite so easy to get, but I'm not sure.
Well, they've banned it in Europe and England.
Yeah.
It's still available in America, for instance. So if you can't get it local to where you are, try and get somebody in America to send some to you. If it's low value, if it's under £100, it would be, because it's incredibly cheap. A kilo of the stuff costs about 10 quid if it were available. So it's very unlikely the customer's going to look at it. They just shouldn't declare it as what it is. So the thing about borax is that it contains boron. And borax is a naturally mined material. And boron is, for some people, the answer to their arthritis. Generally, it's a magnesium deficiency, maybe too much calcium. But for some people, it is borax that makes the difference. And there's a very famous story about Australia where this soil scientist, very, very healthy, living in England, no problem, moves to Australia and he gets rheumatoid arthritis. And being a soil analyst, he thinks, well, maybe I got the minerals that I needed when I was in the UK, but didn't get them when I moved to Australia. So he starts testing for mineral levels and finds that the Australian soil is quite low on boron. And the countries that have high boron in the soil, and therefore the plants grow, with the advantage of having the boron, those people basically don't have arthritis. So the country with the most boron in the soil is Israel. And if you happen to know any Israelis, just ask them, do you know anybody at all with arthritis? In England, everybody knows somebody with arthritis. In Israel, they generally say no.
Wow.
So that's the value of one of the values of boron. There are a great many other things. It's the testosterone booster, for example. Now, if you want to get some boron and you can't find borax to get it from, you might be able to find boron supplements, or the food that's full of boron are raisins.
Oh, okay.
If the raisins are grown in good soil. Yeah, so it's, you want proper organic.
Yeah, of course.
But getting back to the water, it's increasingly important that we monitor everything that's going in and out. They're talking now about modifying the plants to deliver the vaccines through plants. They're also, King Charles, it's not my king, but King Charles has said that he supports genetic modification of plants. I mean, here's this supposed organic farmer supporting GMO and supporting the fact that it doesn't need to be labeled as such.
Sorry.
So, water, filter it. I mean, do not touch the stuff if it's being provided to you by your government, because your government doesn't like you. It doesn't matter where you are, I don't think.
Right. Okay. Because I know I was diagnosed when I was in Australia, to say that I had osteo, I had low bone density or what have you. And over the years, I've done all sorts of different things to keep myself healthy and well. But when I came back from Oz, and then after scamdemic and what have you, I went to the doctors and I said I'd like a little MOT. I'd like to be tested for just different things just to see how I'm doing. So he wanted, so because my iron or my density levels were low, or that he wanted to give me iron pills, and I know their iron pills go straight through and your body doesn't absorb them as I used to know it. So anyway, I've got your stuff that I take. I take the Volvic minerals, I take the iron, Vit C, zinc.
You're not taking iron. We don't sell
No.
iron.
No, what am I? Not iodine. That's right. I'm taking iodine, Volvic minerals, and I bought some Floradex to top up my iron levels. So I'm not sure.
Don't do that.
Right.
Just because a doctor says you're low on iron does not mean that you need iron. And Floradex, right. I don't recommend.
Right.
There are other things that happen, to do with what you're eating, other minerals like B vitamins, for instance, that control things like anemia, things like iron. So, remember, doctors have never studied minerals. They've been taught basic, they're low on iron, they must need it. Give them some iron filings. And when I say give them some iron filings, I'm not always joking. If you look at cheap, nasty, poisonous breakfast cereals, often they say fortified with iron, vitamin B1, vitamin B3, whatever it might be. And the reason they have to do that is that they're so heavily processed that they'd just be poisonous if they didn't add these things. So I think they have to by law. So they've got to add iron. So what do? They add iron filings. And you can take a magnet and prove it to yourself.
Really?
If you dissolve these fortified cereals in some water or something and mush them all up, so now they're in mush, and take a magnet and move it all around, and you should find that little bits of iron filings as
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So anybody's been told they need iron, well, that might not be the case. It may be B12 that they need, it may be B6. There are a number of things that it might be. So have you still got low bone density?
I'm not sure, but I was given, because I'm away from home at the minute a bit longer than, so I haven't got, but I think they give me some in a long plastic tub, and I think there are two that you just chew, calcium and vitamin D or something. And I'm sorry.
Okay. No, that's standard.
But when I read the leaflet, when I come back with these, and they've got aspartame in, so hence the reason I was horrified. I thought, God, how many thousands of people take these from the doctor with aspartame in, so that's why the reason I wanted to connect with you to find out a bit more about this.
But the aspartame is less dangerous than the calcium. The calcium's the really dangerous one. I mean, yes, really? Aspartame is a deadly neurotoxin, but if you've got any issue that starts with the word osteo, you've got too much calcium. That's the problem. Not too little, too much. So what you need is vitamin D, vitamin K2, and magnesium. And those three, there may be other things, but those three are the basis for getting the right type of calcium into the bones. There are different types of calcium. And because doctors aren't taught about vitamins and minerals, they don't know much about amino acids or essential fats, they're in the dark. So it's just totally mathematical for them. There's bone in calciums. I've read it somewhere. Therefore, let's give them calcium. No, that's just not the way it's done. It's a little more detailed than that. So, assuming you're eating green leafy vegetables, perhaps you're eating calcium-rich foods like dairy. Well, you've probably got almost everybody has got enough calcium. But the calcium, if you have a look at your vitamin D calcium tube, I don't know, but it'll probably say calcium carbonate.
Yeah, okay? That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's chalk. do you really think that eating chalk is going to give you strong bones? Because it won't. It'll make it worse.
God.
I mean, it's reductionist thinking. You know, that doctors in some cases are taught to think like 7-year-olds. I think.
Yeah, because I did have your I have got your magnesium and your vitamin D, but I have run out of vitamin K too, so I know I need to get some more of those. Right, so can I move on? So another seems to be about me at the moment, but this is general questions that people are all experiencing on many levels. So when I had the poo test, that came. Oh, hang on, I'm not switched on. Right. God. It came back and it said they needed me to have an appointment within 2 weeks to go to the hospital and have the camera up and around and what have you, and book the appointment. And I mean, it happened so fast. I didn't go for it. I asked a few people, and they all said, don't go that route. That, you know, that could leave you far worse. So they say that there's a sort of concern in it that there could be something much bigger, which I didn't take on board at all. So what is your opinion on the, because I'm just wondering, is it scaremongering? You've just got to be like a percentage in their system of being over a little bit, and then they say, right, you need to go and you need to have this done, and you're in that fear mongering track, if you like.
Well, they are shopping for customers.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I get through the post from the NHS all the time these letters which say, be very scared. If you see blood in your stool, that probably means bowel cancer. Well, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And now they want to look for occult blood. So there's so little you can see it. But I mean, people are eating food that is poisonous. And no wonder their guts are bleeding. I mean, let me give you an example. Must be about 10 years ago now. I like cashew nuts. And I was driving, and I try not to eat from petrol stations, but I went to a Marks and Spencer's one, and they had salt and pepper cashew nuts, with black pepper and sea salt. I thought, what can go wrong? Well, actually, it's the oil they fried it in that could go wrong. But nevertheless, I bought some and I started eating them. I got less than 1 minute down the road when my gums started bleeding. There was something in those cashew nuts that made my gums bleed. So let's say that those same cashew nuts made your bowel bleed. The doctors might have you in for cancer tests and want to stick a camera up your bum.
Yeah.
I mean, sticking a camera up somebody's bum, no matter how small they may say it is, there are many people who've had their bowels ruptured because the doctor, oh, sorry about that. I seem to push it gone through your fucking bowel. Sorry. You know, there's no way. You know, if I had a bowel issue, first of all, I might consider, have I got enough vitamin C and magnesium? Because we're meant to have a bowel movement after every meal, or at the very worst, once a day. So if anybody's constipated, then they've got to consider they may be dehydrated, therefore it's too dry to go through, or it may be they're not eating enough natural oils, making it hard. It may be that they haven't got enough magnesium, because magnesium allows relaxation of the bowel. And you know, you take enough magnesium, you'll have a bowel movement whether you want to or not. Same with vitamin C. You take too much vitamin C, then you'll have a bowel movement. So assuming one is having healthy bowel movements, then what else could be causing a bowel problem? Well, it could be irritation by food, in which case, why don't you try switching to, let's say, bone broth for a few days? Just come off solid food, right? And just go for a food that, you know, if you know that you're confident with bone broth, and actually as a bowel building tool, bone broth is pretty good. I'm sure vegetable broths would do fine. Just give the whole thing a rest, and it repairs. I mean, yeah, you cut your finger, it repairs pretty fast, doesn't it? So if your bowel's bleeding the same way, well, if you, let's say you've got a cut on your finger and you rub some feces on it, it's not going to heal. but if you can take a break. So somebody I know, or an ex-client, phoned me up and said, I've been on a fast now for 8 days, and for the first 7 days, I was still having a poo every day. So I said, well, I think that means you were backed up 6 days.
Yeah.
And so one may be having a bowel movement every day, but how many days behind are you? And only by doing a fast or something do you really find out, or eating something like a load of beetroot or swallowing sweet corn and watching it come out, see how long it takes.
Yeah, because as far as I'm concerned, I got nothing wrong with my rear end, and everything's in perfect working order. So yeah, so I just
let me just say that the insurance companies now, Bupa, are no longer advising annual tests with the doctors because it was counterproductive.
Is what?
Counterproductive. The doctors get it wrong a lot. Doctors' mistakes is the third leading cause of death. Doctors, as they did with me, giving me a drug which almost kills me. With some people, they give them a drug and it does kill them. Does anybody die from cancer anymore? Or do they die from the surgery and the radiation and the chemo? I fear it's the latter.
Right. Okay. So that was that.
Let me tell you something else. Sorry. Several of the bowel cancers that were diagnosed years ago have now been downgraded. They weren't bowel cancer, technically. They said it was, and of course they killed the person probably, or cut half their bowel out, whatever they do. But no, it wasn't bowel cancer. So I think 3 of them now, they've downgraded. So just because the doctor says you've got this, well, that may be your opinion.
Yeah.
As you rightly chosen, don't go along with it. Because, I mean, doctors don't know about health. That's not a subject they do. They don't do cures or causes or minerals or vitamins or nutrition. Basically, everything they are taught is negligible. Half a day in 5 years on nutrition is average for a doctor. So you can learn everything you need to know about nutrition in half a day, can't you?
Oh God.
But they're not good at nutrition generally anyway. And most of the time, their protocol, the NICE protocol in the UK, is this is what you do first, this is what you do second, and you give them drugs. And it's only if the drugs have all failed that you are allowed to recommend, broccoli or something. I may be exaggerating slightly, but
but I know what you mean. Right. Okay. So so I knew that wasn't the route I wanted to go, and I didn't even I just didn't follow that route. I'd rather do it my own way, like you say, change it. So talking about fasting, because there's various, I must admit, I love my food, so I've not been one to fast very often. But there's some say do 1 day, some say 3 days, some say a week, some say 40. So what is your general opinion on the average fasting to make a difference or to flush everything out of your body?
Well, it's a good question. And increasingly, I feel that our intuition is possibly our best guide. And sorry, give me 1 minute. Hello, I'm on the radio. I'm just going to disconnect it to
going live.
Yeah.
I also love food. One of my great joys is eating. So I'm not exactly the sort of person who wants to do a fast either. I have done one, but I mean, what the so-called experts seem to say is that intermittent fasting is a good idea. That like intermittent exercise, you really go for it for 30 seconds or so, then you have a rest for a few minutes, then go for it for another 15, 30 seconds, interval training. So a lot of people say, well, what you should be doing is don't eat till as late in the morning, whatever is possible, and stop eating as early as you can, try and condense your window. But I did a fast for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I was lucky in that I went to Thailand to do it, to a place that offered the whole thing, and it was you did enemas every day, and you drank coconut water fresh from the coconut with psyllium husks. I'm sorry, you'd have that as your mineral and vitamin supplement to keep you going over 2 or 3 weeks. The fresh coconuts, a couple of those, and then you drink water with psyllium husks for the first couple of days or so. And if you put psyllium husks in water, they swell up hugely, like 10 times their volume or something. So you've got to make sure that you've got the right volume of water, because you don't want it to go inside you and dehydrate you. Anyway, but the thing is that when you drink water with psyllium husks, it fills your stomach. So it's as though you're full, it's as though you've eaten, and it's just a way to fool yourself and make things a little bit easier.
I'll try that.
Let me just tell you a side story that when I first discovered psyllium husks and bentonite clay years and years ago, I had that thing, well, for the first time, I'm going to recommend it to a client. So I recommend it to this client who's come. She's 28 years old, and she's got some bowel issues. So I said, look, why don't you flush everything out with some psyllium husks and bentonite clay? Next morning, she rings me up and says, you never guess what came out. Bearing in mind she's 28 years old. So a small piece of yellow Lego. So how long has that been stuck in there?
Wow.
Anyway, so I do this fast, and the first thing that surprises me is that it was easy. I was expecting suffering. By day 2, day 3, I'm going to be climbing the walls to get some food. But actually, I wasn't. I was really surprised that actually it wasn't difficult at all. And then I come back to England, and I still haven't eaten, and I was expecting to feel fantastic, which a lot of people do. But actually, I felt pretty much the same as I did before, which that part for me was a disappointment. Though maybe I was clean anyway. The enemas, nothing. I've done all sorts of things like liver flushes and stuff. Nothing's ever come out. So maybe I'm healthier, and that's why I didn't feel different. I don't know. Anyway, I live in the country, so I'm driving back from Heathrow Airport, and I'm going through Chiswick, and I think, well, this is the last shops that I'm going to see before I get home. I ought to buy something. There was at that point a lovely organic health food shop there. So I walk in there expecting that my brain is going to point me where it always pointed me, which is to the cheese, to the eggs, to the cheesy biscuits, to the nuts. And it didn't. I wasn't interested in any of that. I was really surprised. I went straight to the fresh vegetables and fruit. And somehow my brain had been reset, if you like, and I didn't want anything processed at all, even cheese. I just wanted fruit and veg, which shocked me because, I'm not that sort of person. I'm not particularly a salad guy, So for some people, obviously fasting is the big answer. Somebody I know, he decided that he'd done fast before, and he would do it a completely novel way that, as far as he knew, it had never been done before. So he started recycling his own urine and not eating. So all he did was not really drink water, just recycle his own urine constantly over and over. And after about 16 days, he told me that he was then, I think, 40. He was able to do physical movements that he'd last been able to do when he was about 18 or 20. That his body had reverse aged, if you like. So he was doing yoga stuff that he hadn't been able to do for 20 years. And after about 28 days, he was a changed man. Every little niggly thing had gone away. So, there's a massive history of people getting ludicrously good results from fasting. So,
Yeah. No, I know quite a few people that do urine therapy and aged urine therapy and what have you. So on that note, what was I going to ask you? Urine therapy. Gosh, there's so many things. Right, let's talk about water, because obviously water is the key to most. Oh no, I was going to ask you about enemas, coffee enemas, or water enemas, or even vitamin C. or colonics. What would be your recommendation for people if they wanted to do a colonic or enema?
My recommendation would be to ask an expert, because I'm not one on that subject.
Right. Okay.
I just use water with salt.
Right. Okay.
Is that Celtic salt or just Himalayan salt?
Yeah, just a little bit of Celtic salt. Yeah. But I don't know whether you need that particularly. Just that was what was recommended.
Of course, it's got the minerals in, hasn't it?
Yeah.
What about? Sorry.
So I mean, the coffee enema thing obviously is famous. You grow up some organic coffee and find instructions as to exactly how to do it. And there's also you can get suppositories which have various materials in, including a bit of coffee, because if you use a suppository, there's a direct link between the liver and the bowel. So for people who don't like the idea of doing a coffee enema, they can do these coffee suppositories.
Okay. I suppose that's a lot easier than messing about, hanging it up and all the things that you have to do. Water, drinking water, structured water, hot water, cold, because I know somebody told me years ago that the Chinese do never drink cold water. Or they don't drink it from a fridge. So, and I know that it's like there's filtered water, when you put it through a distilled water, that there's so many different things, and there's like Kanga water and recommendations or guide sort of on which waters, or warm, cold, or personal choice. Okay,
well, the famous they say that really cold water is not a good idea, and they might be right. I don't know. The first thing I did when I moved into this cottage was to phone up the water supplier and ask what they do to it. Where did it come from? Is there recycled sewage going through it? Because in a big city, you're almost certainly going to be getting some recycled water, and that's going to have the birth control pill in it, which is the most commonly prescribed drug. And I believe that birth control pills in the water are one of the things that is leading to gender confusion.
Definitely.
Along with drinking water out of plastic bottles, which also has the same type of xenoestrogen, artificial estrogen, which changes people's ability to have children and so on. So the water people reassured me that it was all right, that all they'd done was put chlorine in the water. And there are lots of ways to get that out, vitamin C being one. If you're lucky enough to have a hot water system that has a tank, that gathers a limescale in it, which neutralizes the chlorine. But if you've got instant hot water, then you want to filter it, basically. So you've got a choice. You could put some big filters in where the pipe comes in from the street and filter the whole house. You could do what I do, which is I on the shower, I've got a vitamin C shower filter, so that's great. With the bath, I've set my temperature control. I do have a tank. At just the temperature, I just run hot water only. So there's no smell of chlorine, no chlorine at all. But if I had cold, then I've got some vitamin C powder by the bath, and I'll put a teaspoonful of that in, neutralized that extra cold water. In the kitchen, I've plumbed in a small reverse osmosis unit. Again, I sell these on the site, and it's about this tall, this wide, this deep, and you can set, it has 4 different temperature controls. So you just press it for normal tap water temperature and it filters it. You can turn it to like a baby bottle temperature to heat a baby bottle with. You can set it to a herbal tea temperature, or you can set it to boiling. So if I have a cup of tea, I just press the button, turn the knob to boiling, and I get boiling water. So when I'm cooking, I can just go straight with boiling filtered water into the pan. It's called the Fusion. It's called Osmio Fusion. About 400 quid or so, and it's super useful. I mean, really great. So that's what I do. but getting the water tested, because you see there are several things that the water people put in water. They put in what's called a flocculating agent. And to flocculate water means you're taking all the particles and making them drop out. And they often use things like aluminium sulfate in the water to do that as a flocculating agent. Because as I think most people know, aluminium, they say, is one of the big causes of Alzheimer's. By putting aluminium sulfate, water-soluble aluminium, into the water doesn't seem the cleverest idea. And then in many places where the government really don't like the people, like Birmingham, they put they poisoned their water with fluoride as well. And fluoride was what was used in the gulags by the Soviet Union. Before the Second World War, the American spies were monitoring exports to Russia, or the Soviet Union at that point, and they were importing a lot of fluoride. And the Americans couldn't figure out why. Were they making a bomb with the stuff? What were they doing with all this fluoride? Anyway, their spies in the Soviet Union found out they were putting it in the water supply of the prisoners in the gulags because they needed way less guards. If they'd fluoridated the people, they were so compliant and docile that they were less likely to escape. And so that's Birmingham and many other cities in England. They're adding fluoride. In America, it's the same. Lots of countries, they're adding fluoride. The whole of Southern Ireland is fluoridated. And, unfortunately, fluoride is a neurotoxin and it dumbs the brain. Look at many of the antidepressant drugs that the doctors use. A lot of them, when you look at the chemical name, it often starts with fluoro something, right? So people take an antidepressant that's a fluoride-based compound. Now, what happens? Do their problems get less? Do their problems go away? No, the problems are just the same, but they just don't care so much.
Yeah.
So they oh yeah, it worked. Yeah, the problems don't bother me so much. That's because nothing bothers you so much anymore because you're neurologically damaged. So, and of course that's you see, you've got to get this stuff out. Boron that we mentioned earlier, borax, if you can get some, put that in the bath, that will neutralize fluoride. Put it in a water bottle, a little tiny pinch in a water bottle, and that will neutralize the fluoride. It's super important because they want us dumbed down, governments worldwide. They don't want to have spontaneous thought.
Well, no, not gonna. It's just I can't find the right words with all the different things that are going on out there, and of course they make organic, and a lot of the stuff's so expensive that people rather, they can't afford to pay out. But at the end of the day, what quality are you getting, and what price is your health? And I always say to people, you can't go to the health shop and ask for £25 worth of health this week. It doesn't matter how much money you've got in the world, you still got to go through, working through your body with natural stuff and taking all the right things to assist you.
Yeah.
So, right. What about electrolytes? Because I know they recommend them for people that have, have had the trots for a few days. Or I don't know. I mean, I'm not in that position, but it used to be, because I know a lot of people say we'll get electrolytes. Yeah.
So electrolytes is all they basically are. On a very basic level, Celtic salt would be a very, very good electrolyte because it's got, if you've got diarrhea or you're throwing up or whatever, you will have lost a lot of basic nutrition. And so while the doctors aren't taught about minerals and vitamins and stuff, they are aware of electrolytes, that you need vitamins and minerals to be healthy. So salt is a perfectly good electrolyte. Fulvic minerals and water would work very well. But I think these days we're so low on vitamins and minerals anyway. I recommend Celtic salt and fulvic minerals to anybody.
Yeah.
Just a basic top up of trace elements that, when they're growing food with NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, the basic fertilizer, plus plants will grow with those 3 minerals, but I would contend that you need all 92, and there are probably more. I don't think they've even discovered all the minerals yet, but there are at least 92 of them.
So you talked about boron and like for the bath water, and somebody said to me, take boron for your bones as in supplements. So boron as opposed to K2?
No, as well as,
As well as, right, okay.
Yeah. Boron is a testosterone booster, and men obviously get low on testosterone in some cases, but women do as well. Now, you often find women over a certain age tend to get dry eyes. Some of them need to use eye drops. Generally speaking, that's low testosterone in women.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I mean, I did have a point, and they said it was dry eyes, and I thought, but they're weeping. How can that be dry? that was my way of thinking. So, if your eyes are weeping, or like I know a couple of nights I've woken up and I've got tears running down my eyes, what would that be due to? Any ideas?
It's something that I've never really looked into. It's probably to do with a deficiency of some kind, but I'm not sure what. I'm
Right,
sorry.
okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, and it could be because I think I've shared that I was in an accident a few weeks ago, and I was in a shunt, so I really got hit up the backside and pushed a person in front. So I know, like, my body's going through a mega shock system at the minute. Unbelievable, but that that's how it is. That's what's happened, and I just have to deal with it as best I can. So, let
me just sort of answer the eye question with why tears are coming out. When I don't know something, usually the first site I'll look up is earthclinic.com.
Earthclinic?
Earthclinic.com.
Right.
I might then, if I can't find the answer there, I might look on greenmedinfo.com. If I can't find the answer there, I might go onto a search engine, not Google because of the censorship, and put in whatever your problem is and the words natural cure.
Natural, yeah. You definitely need natural. Gosh.
Yeah. Generally, you can find the answers to most things with those 3 techniques.
Right. Okay. Well, I didn't know those before, so thank you for that. And I'll add them to my list of different things. So I think that was my main questions, really. And I know somebody else I know is having a mammogram, and I said, have you done your research? And they said they had, but they'd still had a little something there, and they wanted to check it out. So
well, they're shopping for customers again, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're looking for work.
Yeah.
And mammograms are insane, foolish, wrong, damaging, as are biopsies. Biopsies can be immensely dangerous.
That's right, because they leave the root in, don't they? They only take up the top. Well, as I know it, as they take off the top, but they don't take the root out, do they?
You're talking about teeth, I think, and I'm talking about breasts, mammograms, or maybe not. But with a biopsy, what they do is they shove in a big, big needle right into the suspected tumor, bursting through the 7 layers of protection. If it's an encapsulated tumor, it's encapsulated for a reason. It's to keep whatever the toxins are in that so-called cancer away from the rest of the body. Like a grain of sand in an oyster, it's encapsulated by the pearl. That's my feeling about it. And so when they do a biopsy, let's see if it's dangerous or not. So they shove this needle in, which has got a little grabby thing, and it rips a bit of material out. And if it is something that you don't want spread around the whole blood system, now they've spread it. And so if it is cancerous cells, then I believe that very often the doctors have created now its ability to spread through the body because they've ruptured the layer of protection. Now, I'm happy to be proved wrong, but I wouldn't have a mammogram. I wouldn't have any of their tests because it would be better just simply to assume I am a healthy, self-repairing being and I'm not low on a drug. I'm not short on drugs. I'm not low on surgery. I'm not low on radiation. But there are only 3 reasons why we get ill. Physical damage. You get knocked down by a truck. You've had an operation, something like that. That's reason 1, physical damage. Reason 2, toxic poisoning. Somebody said to you when you were young, you won't amount to anything. You'll always be ill. Somebody says something toxic to you. So, or it's what you're eating, what you're breathing, what you're drinking, what you're bathing in, something toxic coming into you and creating a position where the body does the best it can to cope. I mean, let's say you've been taking some toxic chemical every morning, you've been washing your hair in shampoo that has a chemical in that, now it's built up every day, you're using the same shampoo. Wham, suddenly you've got brain cancer because you're rubbing it straight into your brain every day. Or whatever it might be. We're ingesting poisons through the skin without thinking about it. We're washing up and using washing up liquid that's full of nasty chemicals. It's going right into our bloodstream, into our brain, maybe. So we've got to realize that the 3rd reason that anybody gets ill is nutrient deficiency. So you've got nutrient deficiency as a cause, toxic poisoning as a cause, physical damage as a cause. There's no other reason why you get ill. Those are the only 3 reasons you get ill. Toxic poisoning, nutrient deficiency, or damage. So if let's say somebody's got a lump, okay, why have they got a lump? Well, if it's a woman and if it's in the breast, it could be as simple as lack of iodine, right? Because the most iodine is in the thyroid, men and women. In women, the second place where the most iodine is in the breasts. So the Japanese, who don't have a word for menopause, they hardly get breast cancer in comparison to the West. They're eating so much seaweed every day, so much fish, sea fish. They're getting loads of iodine, right? It protects them, protects the thyroid, protects the breasts. So a lump might be as simple as that. It might, there are a number of reasons why lumps can form. It may be that somebody is low on materials like sulfur. Sulfur are in eggs, garlic, onions, leeks, cruciferous vegetables, various materials. And if for some reason somebody's just not eating those, they're not eating eggs, just possibly they're low on sulfur. And sulfur has incredible properties. Sulfur-based foods or sulfur-based supplements dissolve scar tissue. They dissolve fibroids, fibrosis, and people die from fibrosis. People either usually die from inflammation or build up of scar tissue, fibrosis. And it may be that the lump in the breast has something to do with low sulfur levels, and one can supplement with that. But there's always a reason why the lump's going to form. And if we think about our own bodies, when we might have had lumps, it might be a spot, which is something coming out, right? Might be a boil. It could be, I don't know, but lumps occur, and generally they're usually to do with the body trying to protect you. Let's get it together. And with things like spots and boils and breast cancers, they often come out. There are lots of cases where people have gone to the loo in the morning and their colon cancer has come out in the loo. There are people who, if they haven't been poisoned with the chemotherapy, sometimes the breast literally opens and out comes the tumor. So, what is cancer? I mean, clearly there are obviously different types. There's the type that seems to be created by constant irritation, like bowel cancer, and other ones where the body's trying to encapsulate some sort of poison and doing that. I don't think the body would ever let you down. Doctors say autoimmune. I don't believe that. I don't believe autoimmune exists. I don't believe that your body would ever go wrong and fight against you. I just can't accept your body's on your side. You are your body. your body may adapt to a poison, it might adapt to physical damage, or it might adapt to nutrient deficiency. And that might look like illness. But I still contend there are only 3 reasons. Now, I've got a man in a van carrying a box, which I've got to go and get. So perhaps the two of you can talk for a second.
I thought it was another story.
No.
Oh, God. Like so many things, eh? So like magnesium, vitamins, I'm dodging the sun here big time. Magnesium, boron, vitamin C, change your water or get a water filter big time. What else have we got? Boron, vitamin C, magnesium. Just to start, and getting Celtic salt as well, because it's full of minerals, as opposed to table salt, which has got nothing in at all, as far as I'm aware.
Well, table salt's dangerous because if you're ingesting just 2 minerals, sodium and chloride, that is so unbalanced, it can lead to blood pressure problems, heart attacks. You know, table salt is a very dangerous material. I mean, it's got some strange properties in that it's a bit like it's addictive. You start off with a little bit of table salt and you tend to increase the amount you want. It deadens the taste buds, damages the taste buds, which is why people start with table salt and they actually put on quite a lot. Whereas Celtic salt is a total beautiful balance of every mineral.
And it's got taste to it.
Well, it is mind-blowing, actually. I don't understand why the great chefs haven't woken up to the fact that Celtic salt makes food taste so much better. I mean, you'd think everybody would know this. It's crazy.
Oh, you'd like to think, wouldn't you, eh? Right, that's sort of the main, because I think for everybody plodding along in everyday life and with all what's going on, it's like, it's all about your water, it's about your bones and, like you say, boron is like magnesium, especially for restless legs and things like that. So it's like, vitamin D and zinc. I mean, there's obviously lots of things you can take, and it's sort of fine tuning everything to see what's suiting you at the time.
Well, quite. I mean, I would say as a generality, pretty much everybody's low on iodine, pretty much everybody's low on magnesium. I mean, it just seems to be pretty much everybody because of life. Stress depletes your magnesium levels, the water with the iodine, and vitamin D in winter. If you're not getting sunshine, then considering vitamin D, I think, is very important. Most people are low on vitamin C. Minerals don't deteriorate as the food gets old, but vitamins do. Vitamins lose their power day by day by day. So most of us, because we're not growing our own food or eating it on the day it's picked, for example, we're low on vitamins. And it's a dangerous situation if you're low on vitamins. I mean, let me give you a few examples. If you're low on vitamin C, then you're going to be open to infections. If you're low on vitamin D, you're going to be open to infections. Vitamin C allows the body to detoxify. So, when I started taking vitamin D, that was the end of colds and flus. Never got a cold ever again. With vitamin C, for a lot of people, vitamin C, well, let me run through the protective things of vitamin C. There's been so much research over the years about vitamin C. Protects against cancer. Something like, if you've got the right levels of vitamin C, you've probably got 80% less chance of ever getting anything like that. Vitamin C is great for the heart. Vitamin C is an antidepressive. Vitamin D is also an antidepressive. I would suggest way better than any depression drugs. Magnesium is an antidepressive material. So many people feel so much better on those 3, D, C, and magnesium. Often that's enough for people to snap out of their state where they feel depressed and don't feel like doing anything, for example. Then if you add, let's say somebody is really low on energy, maybe they've been told they've got fibromyalgia, or they just don't want to move around. Chances are that iodine and selenium might be the trigger that gets them back into running properly again. Could be selenium. Pretty much everybody who's been tested with fibromyalgia to see what their vitamin and mineral status is, I think it's almost all of them who turn out to be low on selenium. Selenium is an amazing material, and like many of these materials, they're not in soil often the way they used to be. So other really important ones, let's say somebody's getting old, maybe they're not eating as well as they should be. It might be that they're losing muscle mass, right? Some people who are, let's say, 80 or something, like, I just haven't got the energy to eat. Okay, if you want to stay strong, you can supplement with amino acids. When you eat protein, the body breaks that down into amino acids and peptides, and then the body builds it up again into you. So, bodybuilders used to eat steak for breakfast to give them the protein they needed to be strong, but now they can't afford that anymore. All the bodybuilder type people, they use amino acids as their route to power. So let's say you're exercising a lot, then there are most of the amino acids on the market are for those people, the muscle builders. But for the couch potatoes amongst us, they don't need that blend of amino acids. For the people who are just normal, they're not doing extreme exercise, and I count myself as one of those. I lift weights. We do a blend of amino acids which is made for people like me, if you like. And I've had people, I had one lady a while back who showed me her said that, and there's a muscle that popped up, and she said, it's really crazy, I'm ringing you to show you this muscle because I've never had one there before, and I've not done any exercise. It was only a month ago that I started taking the amino acids, and this popped up. Yeah. One of my assistants from the past, she was terrible in the mornings, didn't like mornings. If she took some amino acids in water first thing when she got up, she was full of energy and wanted to do yoga and go for runs. It was weird. I mean, really surprising. So for some people, amino acids can make a big difference. I mean, she was vegan, by the way, so she wasn't getting the protein. Protein from animal products is way more bioavailable than protein from hemp seeds or whatever lovely vegan foods they may be choosing. So a lot of vegans run out of energy long term. And I was going to give the example earlier of some other important vitamins other than vitamin C. And the big one, which relates to vegans, is B12. Now, very hard to get vitamin B12 unless you're fermenting vegetables or supplementing if you're a vegan, because all the B12 that you get from food, except for some fermented stuff, comes from animal products, cheese, milk, whatever. So if you run low on B12, it might take 10 years, 15 years for the body to really run low on it to a degree where it's doing damage. And the sort of damage that B12 deficiency does long term can be it can mimic, if you like, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, and dementia. So many people with dementia, all it was they followed the doctor's advice. Eat low fat. Your brain's made of cholesterol, so the low fat idea was a complete no-no. And now all the advice, particularly to young people, is go vegan. It's going to save the planet by going vegan. Well, for a start, you're going to end up with a B12 deficiency, a taurine deficiency, and maybe a few other deficiencies as well, certainly K2, vitamin K2. So all the vegans 30 years down the line could be at risk of crumbling bones, crumbling brain, that kind of thing. All the long-term vegans I know gave up, every single one of them, long-term. Short-term, a vegan diet can be fantastic, like a fast. You clean yourself out. A month of veganism, particularly raw, well, for some people that's great. If I go raw vegan, I fart a lot, so I don't think that's actually working for me. I think it's a sign that maybe that's not quite where I should be. And everybody's different. So vegans, generally speaking, have a moral, ethical view as to why they're doing it, right? They feel that killing an animal is the wrong thing to do. And I felt this for 25 years. I didn't eat meat for 25 years. I did eat fish and cheese and stuff and eggs. But I used to have to cross the road if there was a butcher. I couldn't handle. And then I changed my mind.
The smell.
Yeah, and the look. And one year I was around at my dad's for Christmas and he had roast goose. And I thought, oh my God, 25 years I hadn't touched meat, right? If it did touch my lips, I'd spit it out. And I thought, wow, that roast goose looks fantastically delicious. And I've been eating meat, healthy meat, organic, biodynamic, if I can get it, meat ever since. Do I feel different for it? Don't know. Can't really tell. Nothing seems to affect me very much. But the point is that if you eat, let's say, cows, goats, and sheep, they graze on top of the soil. You don't have to turn the soil over. You don't have to expose it to sunlight. So the moment you plough a field that's previously been just grazed only, it's never been farmed before as such, the moment you plough it, vast quantities of insects die. You know, worms, beetles, bacteria, all sorts of living beings in the soil die the moment you have ploughed the soil. So if you eat the animals, okay, so maybe one person has killed and eaten the equivalent of one cow or 2 sheep or 5 sheep, whatever it is, over a period of a year. So let's say 10 consciousnesses have died, more if you can't count. Well, but something like that. Whereas if you plough the soil and plant soya beans or whatever it might be, millions of consciousnesses of dying, the caterpillars that would have turned into butterflies. So if you feel that a butterfly has the same consciousness as a human, for instance, or as a cow, and I personally feel that everything's got consciousness, including things like rivers and trees. But if you're concerned about that element, then being a vegan is a mass murderer compared to being a meat eater, in my opinion.
In your opinion. Yeah.
Most vegans don't like this idea.
No.
If you're counting murder as any type of consciousness killed, I mean, there's I think it's the Jains who, so they don't crush an ant, they brush them carefully out of the way as they're walking. Depends what level you want to take it to.
Hang on.
No. Go on.
Collagen and fish oil. What's the benefits of those?
Well, I mean, in the northern hemisphere here, how did people get through a cold winter? Before central heating, hot water on tap. How did they? And when there's no sun, in Iceland or wherever where there's very little sun, how do they get their vitamin D? Well, they used to get it through cod liver oil. Cod liver oil, fish oils in general, have vitamin D in there. And you go up to where the Eskimos are, 90% of what they eat is fat. They're eating cholesterol, massive amounts. And one of the benefits of that is lots of vitamin D. So I don't take fish oil as a supplement because I really like oily fish, like sardines and wild salmon and stuff. So I don't feel the need to supplement. But if people aren't eating oily fish and they aren't living in very sunny climates, they may benefit from that. I mean, the fish oils and so on are anti-inflammatory. If somebody's not eating a balanced diet, they might want to look at cod liver oil, for instance. There are all sorts of fermented oils out there. There's a company called Green Pastures that sells all sorts of fermented oils, which is what the Norwegians and all those northern people did. They took the oily fish, put them in barrels of salt and water and stuff, and they'd ferment them because that, again, gave them the strength to get through a cold winter when there's not much food in winter. The vegans vegans in Norway would have had a huge problem in winter, wouldn't they? So there are vegetables. The further north you go, the more you're dependent on animal fat. Cheeses, stuff that will take you through the winter. Hams that you hang up to air dry. Up north, the ground was frozen solid. There's no, veganism, vegetarianism was really not possible. And it's a huge experiment. Nobody's ever been vegan before in society. Yes, some people do well their whole lives, but most don't. And I think it's dangerous for unborn children, personally. I mean, many times vegans are way more intelligent than regular eaters, so to speak, and are aware of the possible deficiencies they might face. But there are issues that I'm not comfortable with long term.
And collagen?
Well, collagen is, again, we're made of the stuff. We need to take it or the raw materials for us to be glued together. Again, so bone broth is a very good source of collagen. Healthy. Think of chicken soup. They wanted to make chicken soup. The FDA in America at one point were looking at making chicken soup medicine, because so many people were claiming it had cured their diseases that they wanted to class chicken soup as a drug. But then they're to do with doctors. And a few times in the world that doctors have gone on strike, that less people die when they're not.
Yeah, I heard that. Couple of quickly things. One is, I know, like, you see some people's toes or even fingers, and it's obviously some sort of fungal. So is that a warning sign for people if they've got a nail or a fingernail that's going yellowy, or because some go thick, don't they? I don't really know, but it's just a couple of things. We were talking about things, and I thought, oh yeah, that could be interesting. So is that like, obviously your body's getting rid of stuff and it's looking ways to come out?
No, it's not like that. Mushrooms, fungus basically grow on dead things. Tree dies and the fungus grows on it. You get delicious edible mushrooms off trees. So fungus, mushrooms are one of the ways of recycling material. So if you've got a fungal fingernail or toenail, and almost always with toenails it's the big toe that goes first, yes, it's indicative of a systemic problem throughout the whole body. But there are ways to deal with the nail in isolation if you want to. And actually, I was in the bath this morning. I was thinking about making a fungal nail repairer, and basically what you do, what the ingredients would be oregano oil and neem oil mixed with a carrier oil, because oregano oil, if it's neat, can literally burn your skin. It can be way too powerful. You dilute it something like 30 or 40%. And if you paint that on with a brush, you could use almond oil or rose hip oil or something as the carrier oil. So, but basically neem and oregano diluted, paint that on every day or 3, and you'll slowly see the healthy nail starting to grow back and the old nail getting smaller and smaller and smaller until it's gone. If you do nothing, the risk is the nail will fall off.
Right, okay.
The news is you can reverse it. It takes time, obviously. It takes time. But then again, you might want to consider eating less sugar. You might want to consider eating less refined carbohydrates, which would be the sort of foods you might be eating that might lead to a fungal overgrowth.
Yeah, that's it. And one other thing, I'm aware of people talking more about having sensitive gums these days. So I know I spoke to you about this a long time ago, and I think you said about up in the vitamin C. But is it like some of the things that are in some of the products sets off that sensitivity?
Well, yes. I mean, generally speaking, if you've got a skin problem, the first thing to think of is vitamin C, followed by iodine. Vitamin C deficiency is scurvy, and that's where the skin sort of can't hold itself together properly, and you might bleed. So that if gums are bleeding, that would be the first thing. Then I'd consider, are you overbrushing? Many people don't need to brush as viciously as they're doing.
Yeah.
And if you're brushing up and down, you're pushing the gums apart and weakening them, and you might be doing the damage yourself. It may be that you're over flossing, and creating the problem. It may be that you're using a toothpaste that isn't natural. Type you might buy in a supermarket that's actually a chemical mush, and maybe your gums are allergic to rubbing on that chemical twice a day. There could be a number of possibilities as to why it's happening. It might be that you've had some poor dental work and you're getting mercury poisoning from an amalgam filling, for instance, which is causing a breakdown of the integrity of the gums. I mean, I don't know, but one way or another, it's a sign that you haven't been paying enough attention.
Well, I think you've covered, I wanted to sort of do the general area of bits and pieces that some people experience. There was a question from Sandy about soul salt or something. I saw it flash up. What was that? It said Celtic salt soul solution taken daily. Any feedback on that? I don't know what that means.
I'm not entirely sure what that means. It's presumably just salt dissolved in water. So if that's what they do mean, then let's say you took 2 glasses of water and one is regular, one you've just put a little pinch of salt in, stirred it up. You offer those 2 glasses to somebody and say, which do you prefer? All of them will prefer the one with a little bit of salt in. It's not so salty that they can taste salt, but you put a little bit of salt in the water, it softens it. So suddenly it becomes much smoother. You feel much more like drinking it with a little bit of salt in. And as I've done blind tests with lots of people. People like it with a little bit of salt in. And it's good for you because a little bit of salt in the water actually enlivens the water in various ways. So you've got a choice. You can pour water down your throat and you can irrigate yourself with it, or you can pour it down your throat and hydrate yourself with it. In other words, the water can go straight through you and out the other end, or it can carry beneficial nutrients to every cell of the body. And that's what happens if you put fulvic minerals in water, and that's what happens when you put salt in water. You're allowing various things to happen. I mean, let's say you put fulvic minerals in the water, and they're pretty similar. Fulvic minerals allow the expansion of the cell walls. So now, by expanding the cell walls, the minerals in fulvic minerals can go in, and toxins can become neutralized by the fulvic minerals and taken out. Fulvic minerals change the pH of the cells in a beneficial manner. Loads of advantages of a little bit of salt or a little bit of fulvic.
Oh, and Karen says, I have a B12 deficiency, have 12 weekly injections, and I eat meat. Being vegan makes me really poorly. Right.
Yes. So, yes, you can go to the doctor and they will give you injections. So that's one way to go. I wouldn't want to go that route. I might in an emergency, somebody's, dying from weakness, then that might be a good idea. But there are different types of B12, and the type the doctors use is not very bioavailable. I think they generally use cyanocobalamin. Now, there are other types. There's methylcobalamin. Cobalamin is the B12 bit, if you like. And as I mentioned earlier, if you've got enough B12, then things like anemia, iron deficiency can sometimes go away. Then there's hydroxocobalamin. There are some other ones. I recommend hydroxocobalamin because it's bioavailable. And assuming you haven't got any metal in your teeth, haven't got any mercury fillings, metal, silver fillings, Then you can use methyl cobalamin, which is very commonly available. Hydroxo is harder to find. But I don't recommend taking tablets of cyanocobalamin. But if you take tablets of methylcobalamin or hydroxocobalamin, then it's many times more bioavailable. You don't need the injections. You can just take 1, 2 of the little tiny, usually little tiny tablets, and you put them on the tongue, let them dissolve under the tongue, and it's easier than the injections.
Okay. Right. Well, I think that's covered a lot of my questions today, and a couple of things that people have asked me. So the tablets made me really ill.
Okay, then try another type. Because you see, let's say Karen there has got metal fillings. Now, if you take the methyl cobalamin, in some cases people can feel worse because the methyl cobalamin plus mercury can create methyl mercury, which is way more dangerous than just regular mercury. So the hydroxocobalamin, she might find she gets on better. It's probably best for her to eat it with food, with a meal. It may be that she got about, sometimes with B vitamins, some people, if they take it away from a meal, don't feel so great. So B vitamins with a meal, and that might be all it needs.
Brilliant. Right. And there are reports of proposals for deceased bodies to be macerated and added to the land as fertilizer or to the water as sewage. Have you heard about this?
Personally, I believe that the best way to deal with bodies is to bury them. I don't think burning them is a great idea, but people can do what they like. But did our ancestors do that? Well, I suppose they had a lot of wars, but they weren't a good thing. So it sounds like insanity, doesn't it? I mean, what do you think? Is that insane? Why not bury them? Trees can grow.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's been, as ever, I love listening to you sharing about, all the different things that you can do to help yourself. And, if people can't get too much, they can start off with like vitamin C or magnesium or whatever, and start changing their diet and being responsible for their health so that they don't have to go to the doctors, eh? So on that note, I'm going to say thank you once again. It's been absolutely fantastic, and I've gained so much, and I will have to go back through and make a few more notes. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you for inviting me.
No, my pleasure.
Before we go, just doing that promo there for you, thesecrethealthclub.com. Yeah.
Oh, so much information on his website.
So that's one of that's the club is where you have to join, but then I've got clivedecarle.com, which is the one where the materials and stuff are. We can't, in England, we're not allowed to give you actual information. We can't tell you the truth about any of the supplements that we have. We're not allowed to say anything at all. So, but on the Secret Health Club, then it's a club, so we can tell you the truth there.
Yeah. Brilliant.
I'll just put that back up so people know what to do then. So they can always go back later and get this towards the end of the show, isn't it? Yeah.
Watch replay.
I think we've actually got it in the Facebook postings and the YouTube postings. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Same time next week.
And now we know why any of the Birmingham soccer clubs don't do any good.
Best not go there.
Oh, the water's the case of the water. All right. But then again, I mean, the guys in London there, I mean, how many, 7, 8 clubs there in the Premier League? And they've all got the recycling water, which goes through, 7 times through Thames water?
Well, yeah, supposedly. I mean, I'll tell you something else about the water. In the sewage works, they separate the various solids from the liquids, right? Then they separate the fats from the solids. Then they sell the fats to soap companies to make into soap.
Oh, lovely.
Don't buy cheap soap.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. All right. Love your work. And maybe what is it now? 11 o'clock, your plan? 11:30 or something?
All right. Cheerio.
Bye. Thank you. Bye, Clive.
Right.